A landmark decision from the Supreme Court on voting rights, and the ruling could have implications for the entire country.
Conservatives praised the decision, but Democrats called the Arizona law, quote, voting restrictions, and they're pushing their plan to give Washington more control over elections across America. Jennifer Wishon has the story.
In a 6-3 ruling, the High Court upheld voting laws in Arizona, which prompted Democrats to renew their push for a sweeping elections overhaul. In an opinion written by Justice Alito, the court ruled 2 Arizona voting laws constitutional. The laws require votes cast in the wrong precinct to be thrown out and ban so-called ballot harvesting, where voters give their ballots to someone else to turn in.
These measures are designed to provide order and secure the elections and provide confidence in the results.
Opponents argue the laws violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits voting practices that discriminate on the basis of race or color. In this case, Native Americans who have difficulty accessing mail routes.
For somebody who lives in a rural community where you may live 50 or 75 miles from a post office box that you share with a bunch of other families because they're hard to come by, then that's a whole different story.
But the court argued that the law generally makes it quite easy to vote, and conservatives say the measures offer protections against possible voter fraud. The ruling is encouraging to other states considering similar laws.
Justice Alito made clear in his opinion today, the state has a legitimate interest in preventing and detecting election fraud. And that's exactly what Arizona and these other states are trying to do with these new election-related measures.
Lawmakers in at least 48 states are considering some 380 bills designed to strengthen voting laws. Writing in dissent, Justice Elena Kagan said, referring to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, "What is tragic is that the court has damaged a statute designed to bring about the end of discrimination in voting." The ruling again led to Democratic calls to pass their massive election overhaul bill called the For the People Act. This is exactly why we need federal protections to ensure every American has equal access to the ballot box, tweeted Democrat Senator Jeff Merkley. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand adding, "We can't let the filibuster stand in our way. Our democracy depends on it." But the Democrats' bill may also face legal scrutiny. Republicans argue it's unconstitutional because it takes the power over elections away from the states and gives it to the federal government. And in a separate opinion, justices struck down 6-3 a California law that requires nonprofits to hand over their donor lists. Now, Californians who donate money for or against controversial issues like abortion and others don't have to worry about being exposed and possibly harassed. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
There are many things that get me really livid, but this one is getting me really livid, and that has to do with the reaction coming out of the left, that somehow our democracy is at stake, that the federal government has to intervene to stop these voter abuses, that we need to get rid of the Senate filibuster for this, and there was even one call that we need to pack the Supreme Court because of this ruling. And it's a bunch of nonsense. What do these 2 laws do? And they're laws in Arizona, and the first one has to do with a practice called ballot harvesting, where it says it's illegal to harvest ballots from voters, that voters actually have to vote, that you can't go to them and present them a ballot and say, fill this in, and then I'm going to take it for you to the voting precinct, and I will submit your vote for you. That's what ballot harvesting is. Now start imagining the abuses that can happen from ballot harvesting. Imagine a company saying to all of its employees, well, we're going to have voting day and we're going to collect your ballot and we're going to submit your ballot for you. Imagine a neighborhood boss saying, I'm going to collect all the votes from my neighborhood to make sure you guys vote correctly. This is anti-democracy, and I'm just surprised that people would have another opinion on this, and not just another opinion, but start to call for packing the Supreme Court, federal laws that get rid of every single state law on voting rights. This just makes no sense to me at all. The other provision had to do with voting in the precinct where you're authorized to vote, voting in the precinct where you live. Imagine having access, because everybody does have access, to the voter rolls and finding in the voter rolls voters who haven't voted in a long time, and then saying, well, I'm now going to have them magically vote in this other precinct where they don't live. That can really happen. And if you allow that and say that's okay, then all you need to do is take over a particular voting precinct and have people say, well, we examined their license and this was a real person and they really voted. It's all designed to prevent voter fraud and stop these kinds of malicious practices so we can all have confidence in our elections. I really do not understand the other side on this, and I applaud the Supreme Court for saying these are common sense rules. They have nothing to do with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This just makes sense.